planning to visit Rome in February? Yes, it's a little bit cold, but there's a lot that's great about visiting Rome this time of year. You guys, it is a Sunday, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at Circus Maximus. There's nobody here. So yes, that is one of the benefits of visiting Rome in February. It is a fairly low season month, but I'm going to talk about the crowds in February in just a moment. On today's video, I want to share with you what it's like to visit Rome in February, what the weather's like, what you should pack and what to wear, things to do, and what you can expect. As for what the weather is like in February, the first thing I'm going to address is whether or not it snows in Rome. Since I moved here in 2001, it has snowed twice, once in 2012 and once in 2018. I stand corrected. There are a bunch of scouts here on an outing, so I'm not totally alone. Back to the snow. Since it's only snowed twice since I moved here in 2001, you can see that it doesn't really snow in Rome, but it could happen. It's more likely to rain in Rome in February than snow, so that's one thing you should prepare for. But after living in Rome for so many years, I can tell you that February is another one of my favorite months. We do get plenty of blue sky, sunny days, but I also don't even mind these overcast days. I love the beginning of the month because it's really uncrowded, and yeah, even if it's cold, I just bundle. So here's what you should pack when you visit Rome in February. I would suggest a sort of heavy-duty hiking jacket that's waterproof and that has a removable shell or lining. This way, you really have 3 jackets in one, and you're prepared for the rain or snow. In winter in Rome, I never leave the house without a hat. These are easy to pop in your bag if you don't feel like wearing it, and easy to take out if it gets chilly. As for gloves, because these are so lightweight, I would recommend bringing a pair with you. And if you do bring gloves with you, I recommend getting the kind that have an E-tip in the fingers, which means that you can use your phone while you have your gloves on. Gloves are another item that's easy to pack, weigh very little, and you can pop them in your backpack or bag if you don't want to wear them. The next thing, a scarf. Always a scarf, no matter the season. First of all, I know many of you ask how to dress like an Italian so you don't stand out. I can tell you that wearing a scarf is going to go a long way towards that. Italians love to wear scarves any time of year. First of all, as an accessory. But obviously, in winter, a scarf is not just an accessory, it's useful as well. So the trifecta of a scarf, hat, and gloves, in my opinion, is essential for bringing with you on a trip to Rome in February. As for the rain, besides your waterproof jacket, I would bring with you 2 pairs of super comfortable shoes, of which one is waterproof. The reason I say 2 pairs is because if it does rain and one pair of shoes gets wet, even if they're waterproof, they can get wet, you have another pair. Also, just from a comfort standpoint, sometimes it's nice to be able to change out your shoes. So besides the pair of comfortable shoes that you're wearing with you to get to Rome on the plane or train, you want to have at least one other pair in your suitcase. When it comes to shoes, and I say this for any time of year, they should be as comfortable as possible and already broken in. No matter what time of year, you will do way more walking in Rome than you might realize. One last thing that I suggest bringing with you that has to do with preparing for the rain is a good travel umbrella. You might not need to bring an umbrella. If you're staying at a hotel, often they have umbrellas that they lend out to guests, but sometimes they run out. And if you're here in Rome and all of a sudden it starts raining, you're gonna see umbrella sellers appear out of nowhere. And sure, you can easily buy a cheap umbrella to use while you're here and then toss it. But over the years, I have seen so many umbrella carcasses around Rome, and in my opinion, it's just a good idea to invest a little bit in a travel umbrella that you can use for other trips as well. In the description below, I'm linking to my packing list for visiting Rome in winter. I also have dedicated pages on the RomeWise website, one for how to pack in general for visiting Rome, and the other specifically for how to pack for visiting Rome in February. And finally, on this channel, I have a video all about how to pack for Rome in winter, so you can check those out for more ideas. So what can you expect when you visit Rome in February? I did mention at the beginning of this video that February is mostly a low season month in Rome. Low season usually means you can find great deals on flights and accommodations. But is February really a low season? Yes, it's winter and you would expect it to be a low season month. However, in recent years, I have seen a change to the level of tourism in Rome in February. And by recent years, I don't mean just the last 2 or 3. Alessandro and I ran a bed and breakfast in Rome up until 2018. From the time we opened that bed and breakfast in 2001 to the time that we got out of it in 2018, tourism in Rome had changed. One of those changes was simply an increase in tourism year over year. When we first opened our bed and breakfast in 2001, January, February, and March were all low-season months. When I started the RomeWise website in 2009, I even wrote on the page called Rome in March that March was the month when we were starting to see tourism pick up and you could start to see the beginnings of a kind of a mid-season. That has completely changed. So this change I saw over those 17 years is that people were looking for when they could come to Rome and find smaller crowds. As everybody figured out that April was not, in fact, and never has been a shoulder or a low season, they started coming more and more in March. And so you guessed it, big crowds in March meant that people started looking for when else they could come, and that meant February. That being said, February still is not a high season month. The first 1 to 2 weeks in February still is really a low season, except for the weekends. But in February, you can expect to find more crowds in Rome on the weekends in February and in the second half of the month as we get closer to March. In the description below, I'm linking to my Rome in February ebook. This ebook is chock full of all the information I've shared with you on this video and more. And it comes with my 3-day itinerary in Rome that's tailored for winter. Speaking of winter, if you love Rome in winter as much as I do, you can order my beautiful Rome in Winter photo book. You'll find the link in the description below. So why are the weekends more crowded in Rome in February than during the week? This is somewhat related to events that happen in Rome in February. First of all, this is the season for Six Nations rugby matches. When we first ran our bed and breakfast, I couldn't understand why certain weekend dates in February were so popular, and it was because the Six Nations rugby match was being held in Rome that weekend. The matches are held in the different countries that participate, but there are 3 games in Rome every year, usually 2 in February and 1 in March. In the description below, I'm linking to the Six Nations rugby calendar. Another obvious event that happens in February, not just in Rome, is Valentine's Day. Whether or not you're visiting Rome on a romantic getaway, February 14th and the dates surrounding it can get pretty busy in Rome because Rome is a romantic destination. So I have to put on my hat because every once in a while it starts to rain, and even if this is not a rain hat, it still does the trick. In the description below, I'm linking to pages on the RomeWise website for how to spend Valentine's Day in Rome, romantic things to do in Rome, and my top tips for romantic restaurants in Rome. You may also be interested in my page all about where to eat in Rome with a view. Got a little sunny all of a sudden. Anyway, on February 11th, it is the anniversary of the founding of Vatican City. And on this day, the Vatican museums are closed. Probably the biggest event that you should be aware of in Rome in February is Carnival. Carnival is the period just before Lent, so the start date of Carnival obviously depends on when Easter is. But no matter when the official start date to Carnival is, you can count on February to have a kind of Carnival feel about it. Certainly, Venice is the more famous place to be during Carnival, and it does have a lot more going on than Rome. The way you can tell that Carnival is being celebrated in Rome is by seeing little kids running around Rome in costume and throwing these confetti called coriandolo. They're little colored dots. When Carnival does officially start, there will be a parade, usually along the Via dei Fori Imperiali and somewhat through the city center. And for me, the best part about Carnival are the treats. In Rome, in Italy in general, we eat seasonally. And besides the wonderful fruits and vegetables that are in season right now, such as artichokes, broccoli, chicory salad, February is the one month out of the year that you can find carnival treats called frappe or castagnole. They do go by some other names in other regions of Italy, but in Rome, we pretty much call them by those names. Both of these treats are pretty much fried dough covered in sugar. Frappe are crunchy and they're usually covered in powdered sugar, although sometimes with chocolate. Castagnole are little soft dough balls, sort of like donut holes, and they're usually covered with granulated sugar. You can find frappe and castagnole in just about any grocery store, but obviously the best place to get them is going to be at a pasticceria or pastry shop, or even at a bar or cafe that has them brought in from a pasticceria, so they're fresh. You'll start seeing these treats sometime in late January, all the way through just the beginning of March, but that's it. Speaking of food, I think that February is a great time to take a food tour in Rome. It's not too hot and you've got all this yummy food to keep you warm. Some great things to do in Rome in February include being outdoors. For example, I would do an e-bike tour on the Appiantica. In summer, it's hot to do that kind of a tour, but right now it's the perfect weather for it. But obviously, if it's cold or raining and you don't want to be outside, we are blessed with so many wonderful museums in Rome. You're probably going to be visiting the Vatican museums on your visit. But here are some other wonderful museums to consider. The Capitoline Museums, the Galleria Borghese, the Doria Pamphili, and Palazzo Altemps, just to name a few. This is also a great time of year to take a day trip from Rome. For example, heading down to Pompeii right now, it's wonderful because it's not hot. Another wonderful day trip is Ostia Antica. It's a lot cheaper and closer than Pompeii, and you will see a lot of ancient Rome. And here's my final pro tip for you. A great thing to do in Rome in February is to visit St. Peter's tomb. Why? Well, first of all, because it is low season, you're more likely to be able to get a ticket easily. But the other reason is this. I went to St. Peter's tomb one year in August thinking that because it's underground, it would be a nice way to keep cool, and it was the exact opposite. A lot of the underground sites in Rome, such as the Domus Aurea, are cool, but St. Peter's tomb is different. When you visit St. Peter's tomb, yes, you are underground, but they hermetically seal you into every room. So you're in these sort of small spaces. It's not claustrophobic, but they seal the doors behind you, and so it's always hot in every space you're in. So in February, this would be a great way to keep warm, besides obviously visiting an amazing site. So what do you guys think? Have I convinced you? Will you visit Rome in February? Have you already visited Rome in February? Drop me a line in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. If you are planning to visit Rome anytime soon, do not miss my video all about the perfect 3-day itinerary in Rome.